Hi, everyone. This is Jennifer. I'm on the customer success team. Thank you so much for joining us.
And hi, I'm Adrienne, also on customer success with Jennifer. Good morning. Hello. And Randy, yes, it will be recorded and you'll be able to rewatch it.
So weather for me, I am in South Carolina, and it is cold, but not Arctic cold. So good sweater weather. Although it's like, I don't know, 40 degrees, it's still pretty cold. So Adrienne, what's your weather where you are?
It's cold. I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit. It's about -9 Celsius. I'm in Niagara, Ontario. The snows get going, like we're having sun, so that's nice, but it's still a little frigid.
All right, people are still kind of entering in, so we'll give them a few minutes to come on in. Ooh, lots of you are shoveling snow. If you want to put in the chat where you're from, that would be great. Yeah, what park and what state you're in, that would be awesome.
Or province.
Province, sorry. We do have a handful of Canadian parks, so yes, we are happy to have you guys here.
I love seeing where everyone's from, though. It's so cool that there's just.
I do too.
Yeah.
Oh, 50 degrees in Utah. That's pretty warm.
Went for a morning run. Oh my goodness.
Actually, it's the same weather in Florida as it is in Utah.
It's rainy. All right, I think we have a good amount. Maybe we should head to the agenda.
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's see.
Oh, the blizzard, Priscilla.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for our accounting webinar. Tax season's approaching, and so today we're going to talk, or Adrienne will talk about how to use payment reconciliation, the common end-of-day errors, and how to troubleshoot them, and reading and reconciling the journal entry summary, exporting accounting data, and an overview of updated reports from last year and how to use them. We've got a handful of reports that we added, and Adrienne's going to show you how to use them.
All right. Awesome. So I guess we'll just dive right in. I'm going to share my screen. Just please let me know that you can see it when it comes up here. And there it is. Okay, cool. And if you have questions as we go, please feel free. You can drop them in the chat or in the Q&A. It doesn't really matter. So we can answer some questions as we go, and then we'll also have time for Q&A at the end as well. So whichever feels best for you. I'm just going to start, though, by doing just a quick overview. If you haven't set up your accounting yet, we aren't going to do the whole setup on this call. We have a couple videos on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@Firefly Reservations. Also, we do have quite a lengthy document in the knowledge base. So if you do head over to the knowledge base here, you will see that there's a whole accounting guide with a guide on how to set everything up. So if you haven't set it up yet and you're wanting to use the accounting to make sure that you're in a good position to do your taxes, the accounting does have to be set up before you'll have access to most of the reports that we're talking about today. We do have 3 different accounting methods as well. So most people, I think, are using cash basis accounting. That is the most popular one, but we do have accrual and hybrid accounting as well. We've also added new reports for those 2 accounting methods, which is super exciting. And if you do want to switch your accounting method, please reach out to Success or Support for help with that, just for some guidance, because we don't want you to get in any financial problems or have reports be inaccurate because you decide to switch. So with the accounting setup, we do have our chart of accounts in here. If you do need to make any changes at any time to your chart of accounts, if you add a new account in, if you change numbers, you can always edit. So if you change the name or number of an account, that is retroactive, so it will go back to any reports that you've already done. But of course, if you do need to add a new account, we can do new account here. that will only be from the time you add it and link it, from the time that you post those batches forward. So adding accounts won't do anything retroactively. All right, so let's talk about payment reconciliation. So here under accounting, we have our end of day procedure. Now on cash basis, you do have two different reconciliation options. You have a one-step batch and you have a two-step batch. If you are using the one-step batch, you will not show this payment reconciliation. And that's something you can always switch at any point in time. If you're watching this and you're like, oh, we only have the one step and I really want to do this reconciliation, by all means, we can switch it. Nothing bad will happen. It's no problem. But with the payment reconciliation, and this is true for cash, accrual, and hybrid, we're first going to generate our report. So when I hit generate, you'll see that it brings in all of the different payments that have come in from the last time I've done an update to whatever cutoff date and time I have here. And you can see I took some cash, took a lot of checks, took a credit card as well. So it breaks down all the payments. You can print this if you want. I find most people don't, but it's there if you like the look of this and you do want to print it. For check and credit card, you don't really have to do anything. You're welcome to look at it. If you know that you have a check and you don't have it in hand and maybe they're going to bring it and you put it in prematurely or something, you can uncheck this to be like, no, I don't actually have this. But I'm assuming most people are putting checks in when they receive them. And for cash, you'll notice that we have an expected amount and then we have an actual amount here. Now, the actual amount is what you actually have in your cash drawer minus your float. So when you count your cash drawer, please make sure you take out your starting amount. Otherwise, you will never balance and you'll never match. So the expected amount is how much Firefly thinks that you should have in cash in your cash drawer. And we would go in here and type in the actual amount that we have. Now, on a great day, it matches. On a normal day, it might not, especially when you're doing a lot of cash. So we also do have a write-off option if you want to use it. You don't have to use it at all, but if that's something that you think would be helpful, at the bottom here, we can do the write-off. So let's say we actually have $55 in our cash drawer here. So you can see down here, it's going to write off the $251. Now, I don't have mine set up to do this, but if that is something that you would like to do, you can set up a write-off account and link it under settings, accounting, and general settings. So you'll see right here, there's a financial account for write-offs. So in that account, you could write off the difference in cash, whether it's up or down day to day, if that's something that you want to do. If you're like, I don't really care about $2.50 because maybe someone gave me, $2 for a bag of ice or something, you can just type in the actual amount that you collected. The same as the expected amount, sorry. So as long as these two numbers match, if you're not doing the write-off, you're able to post the batch. And you'll notice, yeah.
Sorry, I have a question. What if they don't have that payments tab in their end of day? Is that always going to be there?
Only if you're on two steps. So if you don't have the payments tab, you're on the one step batch. Which means like you don't have and you don't have to use this if you don't want to. If this is something though that you want to do, here under settings and accounting, you can see here the end of day batch mode. You have single or advanced. So you're probably on single. And if you do want to do this reconciliation, you can just switch it to advanced. But if you really only do credit card and you don't care about reconciling a cash drawer or reconciling checks, I probably honestly would just do the one-step batch.
So this is the two-step example.
Yes, and this will be the same for hybrid and accrual. We don't have an option to do a one-step batch on hybrid or accrual accounting.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. But like I said, if you're taking a lot of cash, it's probably worth turning on. But if you're only doing credit cards, why do the extra step, right? So, because you're not reconciling any of that. So as long as we have our expected and actual entered here, you'll notice that this post batch is lit up. If I don't put anything here, I can't post. So you do have to make sure that there's a number entered. So you can also check out the summary if you want. I find, again, if it's useful for you, you can, but there will be a report that you can print that will have this information. So it's probably not necessary to print it now.
So Adrienne, I've got a question. So when you have employees who are collecting the cash, are they the ones that should be doing this step one,
Mhm.
or the person at the end of the day? Like, who should be doing step one?
So we don't have it built out where you can reconcile by clerk. So if you want to do it by shift, you can totally have somebody batch out at the end of their shift and do it again at the end of the day if you want to. You can do it at the complete end of the workday, but we usually recommend doing your closeout the next morning for the day prior, so that your credit card cutoff also matches your cutoff in Firefly. You can batch multiple times though. So again, like if you wanted to do it at the end of the day and then do it the next morning for any online reservations that came in overnight, that's totally fine too. It's really what's going to work best for you. And you don't have to do it every day either. So especially in the off season when you're maybe not collecting so much money, if you want to do it once a week, that's also okay. So
Thank you.
yeah. I know it's hard to be like, do this all the time, because it really depends on your business and how you're running things. So don't feel pressure, because it will always catch you up. You can't just start the accounting out of nowhere. It has to catch up from the last time it was run. So it's not going to miss anything. So there's no need to be worried about that. And then once you've posted, you always have access to that past data. So it's good in that way. So I'm going to go ahead and post this batch now that I have all my funds in here. It's going to ask if I'm sure. I'm going to say yes. And that is step one of the reconciliation complete. Step two is to go to transactions. Now, if you're on the one step, this is the tab that you're going to see. So I'm going to hit generate again. And that's going to load in all of the revenue that needs to be earned from the last time I've updated until now. So you can see the reservation revenue. It just shows all the reservations that have earned money for this time frame. You can scroll through it if you're interested. It's kind of cool to see. Your POS revenue for any point of sales. Inventory is going to be any inventory adjustments. So whether you've sold inventory or you've added stock, all of the adjustments will be in here. The reservation credit adjustments is when you give somebody a credit. So say, John Smith had a bad time and you're like, here, John, I'll give you a $25 credit towards your next stay. That's what these reservation credit adjustments will be. And then the summary, of course, just tells you the summary of all the account codes that will be hit with revenue for that time. However, you can see by looking at mine, there's a few red spots here, and that's not good. And you can also notice that post batch is not highlighted. So Firefly will not let you just willy-nilly post it if there are errors. So let's go through. I have 3 really common errors that we see all the time. The good news is they're super easy to fix. Of course, support is always happy to help you, but it's not something that you can't fix on your own. And when we have a nice red highlight here, we can scroll down to find out where the error is. So this is honestly the most common one that we see. And this one says, cannot post payment for overpaid charge, update charge amount, or refund payment. Now the reservation or the charge in question will be like right here. So you can just click on the lookup code to go right to it. It will open it in a new tab, so you're not going to lose your space. And then if we go to the charges tab, you can see, oh, here's my culprit right here. This one is overpaid. And the reason the system's having a hard time with this, especially on cash basis, is because we have $90.40 that the system doesn't know where to classify, because we've told it that this person only owed and paid us $813.60. So what they owed us and the payment of $904, it doesn't match. So to fix this, in this case, it was a coupon. So I can either refund the $90.40 because the coupon was applied and I never gave the person their money back. So if you wanted to refund it, you would just go to options, hit refund, and you could process your partial refund of $90.40. If this was done in error, maybe they weren't supposed to get a coupon. Maybe they showed you an ID that was invalid. You can remove the coupon here. Alternatively, maybe you changed their dates and the system recalculated. Maybe they left a day early. And this is where I see it the most, where somebody leaves a day early and they forget to uncheck recalculate charge. So now the system thinks they should get a night's worth back, but the park is like, well, I'm not actually refunding that because they canceled that day. So in that case, you need to go to the circle and the three dots. You need to hit edit, and you need to update the price to reflect what they were actually billed. In my case, I'm going to remove the coupon because that's how I did it. But you want to make sure that this is all green and that it says paid and not overpaid. So you'll have to decide on a case-by-case basis what one you need to do. So do you need to refund? Do you need to remove a coupon? Or do you need to edit the price? But whichever way you decide to go, that will update it accordingly, and that will fix that error. So let's go back, and I know I had 3 of them, so I'm going to scroll down here. Okay, this is another really common one. So this one says, no financial account set for other charge types. So let me click on this and see what happened. So if I go to the charges, you can see here I have a charge that's called overpayment, and right here it's classified as other. Now these other charges happen when somebody hits new charge. They say, that doesn't really fall into any of these categories, I'll just call it other, and they make up a charge for whatever they want. Now in my setup, if I go to settings and accounting, I do not have a financial account linked right here for those other charges. Oftentimes, I recommend parks leave this blank so that you can see if people are creating other charges, because ideally, we do want to have an add-on or an actual charge for everything that we're doing. But in this case, you could also say, okay, I don't really care. I want any miscellaneous or other charges going into this bucket here. So if we set it up this way, anytime somebody says new charge and classifies it as other, it will go into this bucket here. So we'll save that, and that one's fixed. Now, if I go back up to the top, I fixed those 2, but you can see I also have POS revenue errors and inventory errors. And this is actually the same error. If we scroll down, it says no sales financial account found for POS item Twizzlers. And if I go to the inventory side, you can see it's kind of the same thing. Inventory financial account must be specified for Twizzlers. So let me go into my point of sale, my POS items here, and let me find my Twizzlers. I was just eating these today, so that's why I set them up in here. But here you can see, okay, so far it looks pretty good. I have my UPC, my description, but I don't have anything here on the right, nor do I have a category selected. So when you're setting up your point of sale options, you have 2 choices. Choice number 1 is you link all of the accounts over here. So you would link a sales financial account and groceries, there we go. You would link a cost of sales account, and you would link an inventory financial account. So you would link all of those things. That's totally fine. If you have a lot of POS items though, that's a lot of work, and we don't want you doing that for all, thousands of items that you might have. So if you come down here to settings on the left and go down to POS item categories, if you don't have categories, please create them. It just makes it so much easier to use. But let's say candy and snacks, because Twizzlers are candy. In the category setup, if you have your accounts linked here, as long as in the POS item, let me go back here, Twizzlers, you choose that category, that default will apply. It's not going to show over here on the right. This is only if you want to override the POS category defaults. But you can see choosing a category is much easier and much faster than selecting 3 accounts on every item. So I'm going to put it into candy and snacks. I'll hit save. And let's go try to generate this again. So let me hit generate. Might take a second here. And look, I'm all clear. So no more red. That looks great. And you can see there's no more red, and this post batch is nice and blue. So we'll hit post batch. Yes, we want to submit it. And that closes out our day. Now, normally it won't take you so long because you're not going to have a whole bunch of errors like I did, but it might happen from time to time. So that's why it's better to do the end of day on a regular basis than leaving it all for a long span of time, especially if you're on accrual accounting. Please don't try to do months and months at a time. It'll take you forever. because accrual accounting generates so many different journal entries. So just be aware of that. Not limitation, but we don't want you just wasting your time waiting for it to load, and doing it regularly will ensure that doesn't happen. But now that we've batched out, if we go to posting batches here under accounting and posting batches, you can see the history of all of the end of day updates that we've done. So if you're ever wondering, ooh, did they get that done or did they finish it? You can always check the posting batches. And it won't hurt if you run it again and nothing comes up. Like, that's not a problem, but sometimes we just like to know. In the posting batches, if you click on the payment side, you can see here's our cash entries. And if you click on transactions, you will see here's our revenue. Now, this is just nice to kind of pinpoint things, but of course, we'd rather use a report. So let's take a look at our journal entries report, which is what our end of day creates. So the one that you'll use.
I do have a quick question before we go into reports, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I've got a park that is moving to basis,
Okay.
and they were told that they close out at 8:30 p.m. in order for the cash to be recognized in one day.
Yeah.
Do you suggest changing the time in Firefly, or changing? What would you suggest?
I do. I was going to get there.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I 100% suggest changing the time, because if you're always comparing apples to oranges, you are going to be frustrated. So if you make sure that your processor is batching out at midnight in your time zone, then the Firefly end of day or the Firefly payments report will always match your processor payments report. The number one problem people have with reconciling is that the times are different. And I think most of the processors operate on Eastern time. So if you are, Central or Pacific, make sure that you take that into account. It might delay your payout by a day, but it's so much less work to reconcile your payments. And we want it to be the path of least resistance. So I would totally recommend batching it out at 11:59 or midnight, whatever time zone you're in. And you can, I think Fiserv, you can actually log in to do it yourself, but either processor will help you get that done if you need.
So not changing the time in Firefly, changing the time in the processor.
Correct, yeah, because Firefly is going to timestamp it, like here under settings and property, whatever time zone you have your system in here, which I'm assuming is going to be the time zone of your park. That's when all of the reports are going to, the time zone all of your reporting is going to be in within Firefly. And to me, it doesn't make sense to have your Firefly set up on a time zone that the park isn't in. Like that would mess with my head, especially because the timestamps on all of your reports are going to go off this time zone.
Okay, great. Thank you. I do have other questions, and do you want me to get to those, or do you want to finish off what you're doing?
It doesn't matter. We can do the questions.
Okay. Let's see, Brian, he's an absentee owner. Two-step, let the frontline folks print date ranges of time for info on the total revenue.
Yes, and we will see that in the journal entry summary, but yes, 100%.
Okay. And will that double entry, he says this will double enter an invoice on the end of the day download. So when you pay the bill and do this, you get two entries in QuickBooks, one from Firefly and one from QuickBooks. I'm not sure if that.
I'm not sure. I'll talk about the transfers, so maybe it'll become more clear at that time. So I'm not sure what the question means, but when we get there, I'll go through the transfer, and if it's still not clear, let me know.
Okay. And then they zeroed out all of the COGS and only entered retail prices. This, he said, eliminate the double entry. Right. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll talk about when I load the journal entry summary, I'll explain those too. So.
Okay. Awesome. And then the last one before you go on, with PayRuck and BridgePay going down, they will have a month to batch out at once to run all those credit cards. Is that going to pose a problem?
It won't pose a problem. It might be a little bit slow. That's the only thing. So you might just have to give it time for it to load, but it won't be a problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially like cash basis and hybrid are pretty quick and fast. It's the accrual, because it has to create so many journal entries, that slows down. So just be aware, if you're on accrual, you might have to break it up into chunks.
Great. Thank you.
Cool. All right. So reports here on the left. The number one report that is based in your accounting, based on how you set everything up and your end of day procedure, is the journal entry summary. Now, if you run this report and you see nothing, that means your end of day has not been done. So please don't panic. We just have to make sure the end of day is done because that's what generates the numbers for these reports. If you run the report and you only see cash entries, you don't see any revenue, that also probably means only one side of your end of day has been done. The transactions side hasn't. Or of course, if you're on hybrid or accrual accounting and you haven't earned any revenue yet, it could be that as well. So I'm just going to select the date range. Let's just do today because I put a lot of stuff in today. So you select the date range. And again, as long as you've done the end of day up until whatever date you have here, you can do any date range you want. So if you want to do one day, that's great. If you want to do the last week, that's totally fine. If you want to look at the last month, by all means, you can get your month end totals from here. And you could even look at the whole last year if you wanted to. So it doesn't matter what time frame you're running, as long as all the journal entries have been posted up until the end date here that you want. But let me just go to today for simplicity's sake. And you can see here on the right, we have all of our financial accounts. Normally when you're running this report, you want everything selected just because I'm assuming you want to see everything. But if for some reason you just want to see something in particular, like maybe I'm like, I don't care about anything except my RV monthly income for today. You can run just this account and it will just show you that number. So it's pretty flexible in that sense. Now I have all of my cash, checks, and credit cards going into one account here called cash. You might have yours broken out. If you do a wide selection of cash, credit, and checks, I might suggest separating those so that you have one bucket for credit cards, one bucket for checks, and one bucket for cash. Or you can put checks and cash together since you're probably depositing those at the same time. But the benefit to having the credit card split out is that if you have a separate credit card entry here, the post amount that you see here should reconcile against the bank deposit or the batch out number that you get from your processor. And I think that's why that batch out time that we were just talking about is so important, because if your Firefly is in your time zone and your processor is batching out not at midnight and not in your time zone, those two numbers are probably not going to match very often. And it's really frustrating trying to pinpoint what transactions went in or like after the cutoff. So that's why, again, really important to make sure everything's batching out at the same time. But let's say this was just credit cards. We know it's a collection of a bunch of stuff, but let's say this was just credit cards. Your debit will be money in, credit will be refunds, and post amount is the net between the two. So the post amount, again, should match your deposit. If you want to break it down, you should also be able to match the credit against the refunds if you're looking at the reports from the processor. So that's how you kind of look at this number here. The other report that you can match this one specifically to, let me just go over on another tab. We're going to go back to reports. We're going to scroll down here to payments. So our payments report, let's just do today. This isn't tied to the journal entries or the end of day. So this just looks at what payments came in and it lists them. So this should match your journal entry summary as well. Now, the biggest part on the payments report is we want to make sure this payment status says paid. Because if you have failed payments or scheduled payments that went in, or there's bank transfers that you're waiting for, it's not going to match because that's going to make your numbers on this report look larger than you actually collected. So just make sure that you have paid here. So let's go ahead and run this. So we have all of our money here. And that matches back to our post amount here. So you don't have to run both and compare them, but it is a nice check and balance. And if you haven't separated your payment methods in your general ledger here, you can use the payments report to be like, oh, okay, here's my $249 in cash. Here are all the checks I collected. I didn't do any credit cards today. So you can use it for that reason too. Now, if we're looking at our revenue, so we're going to look at these numbers down. So you can see if you do collect taxes, of course, that should be in its own separate bucket. It will be a liability account, so you can see how much tax you've earned. If you charge multiple taxes, please break it out. I always say it's easier to add numbers together than it is to separate them apart. So if you have to remit taxes separately or you need to know the numbers of each piece, please break them out individually in Firefly and just make it so much easier on yourself. Then we also have our RV income, groceries, and processing fees. So you can see the amounts here. Now, when we're looking at any of these accounts, so again, our sales tax down, we'll notice that the credit is what we like the money in, debit would be refunds. So it's always opposite to our asset account, our cash account. And I think this is where people get confused. So you always can look at the post amount to know what the total is. But if you're looking specifically for refunds, the debit column here will say, okay, well, if I did a refund of monthly, maybe somebody left early and I gave them $700 back, you would see $700 here in the debit and $700 here in the cash credit. So that's how the system flows. So I know a lot of people have been asking, like, how do I see how much I've given back or how much has been refunded? It's going to be this column for what actually was paid out and these columns for where the revenue was removed. You also might see debits in this column if revenue was recategorized. So let's say somebody stayed for 25 nights and then they realized, you know what, if I stay a month, I get a better price. Let me add those few months on. And you thought, okay, that's fair. And you recalculated it. Well, when you recalculated it, it's going to have to adjust. So it adjusts the revenue by debiting it out of RV daily and crediting it into RV monthly. So you might see changes like that as well, just so you're aware. I'm trying to think, is that all with my JEs? Oh, the one thing too I want to mention, please don't worry about these numbers up here. Everybody freaks out when they see them. It's like, oh, I didn't get all that money. No, you didn't. So the total debits and total credits is just the addition of each of these columns because we want our debits and our credits to match so that we know everything is accounted for. So that's why we have these numbers at the top where we have our total debits, they match our total credits, and our post sum is 0 because these negate each other. So that's what we want to see, but please don't use this as any totals for you. If you are using the POS, you will also potentially notice that we have inventory offset, and I don't have it in here. Let me see if I do this month. I probably have a few more. There we go. Okay, so we have inventory offset, and our cost of goods sold. Now, where this comes from is on your POS items. Let me just open my favorite, Earl Grey tea. So if we open this one up here, you can see I have my sales price. So my customers are charged $4.99 for their box of tea. I pay $3 per box. And anytime I add inventory onto my shelves, that $3 gets multiplied by the quantity that I'm adding, and it puts it in this inventory account. So this inventory, it should be an asset. This is how much money you're putting in or that you have sitting on your shelves that you haven't sold yet. Firefly doesn't have a way to do accounts payable because we're not like a payout kind of system, like we don't do vendors, and that's what the inventory offset is for. So you will notice that like I have my debit here of $22.25 and my credit here. It's just so that these two entries can balance. And then here at the bottom, we have our cost of goods sold. So when you sell an item, of course, you're going to earn the revenue. So I'll have my $4.99 in my grocery revenue for my tea. But then the $3 that I paid for it will come out of the cost of goods sold. So it's going to come out of your inventory asset through the cost of goods sold because now it's no longer on your shelf. If you don't want that level of inventory management in the system, if you're like, I never want to see these accounts, I don't care, that's totally fine. But you do have to make sure that on your POS items, your cost is set to 0. And then nothing will go in and out of those 3 accounts. You can still use it to track the number of items on hand. It won't affect any of that. But this has to be 0. Otherwise, you will see the inventory offset, and cost of goods sold accounts being written in and out of. So again, not good or bad either way. It's whatever is going to be best for you, but just be aware that that's how it goes. And I know a lot of people using QuickBooks, they are using like QuickBooks to manage that side of things more so than Firefly. So like if that's not something you want to go into your accounting package, don't feel like you have to utilize it. I think that's pretty much all I have for the journal entries. The only other thing I can think of is like if you are on a different accounting system. Like if you have accrual accounting, you're going to see your accounts receivables and your deferred revenue in this list. And if you're on hybrid, this deposits account is where all future revenue lives. So just be aware of those things. The deposits account we'll talk about very briefly. I feel like a lot of people get confused on this account. So there are three reasons why you might see a change in the deposits account. Reason number one is you're on hybrid accounting. Hybrid accounting, anytime somebody pays for a stay and they haven't stayed yet, it sits in the deposits liability until they actually come. So if you're hybrid, great, that's normal. The other two reasons is one, you gave somebody a reservation credit. So you said, hey, here's $25 to use towards whatever you want. Or you used a reservation credit. So somebody had that little reservation credit in there. Let me just run the report here. They had that little green reservation credit. We do have the report for it. I'll go back to this after, but they had it sitting here or in the green section on their reservation. He has none. So if they have a credit and you're utilizing it, that always goes in and out of the deposits account, because the deposits account is that liability where it's like, well, we have this money, but no one's used it yet. So it has to go in and out of there. So that's the only times you'll see changes in that deposits account. This has nothing to do with what you're getting from your processor, what you're getting from the bank. It has nothing to do with actual money deposits. So please be aware of that. Normally on cash-based accounting, it's a wash account unless you're using reservation credits. So yes. Any questions on this stuff so far, Jen?
Brian clarified his experience with the point of sale.
Okay.
So he said when you enter COGS to Firefly, the download to QuickBooks will make journal entries to your expense account,
yes,
usually the GL 5000 accounts.
Yep.
Then when the bookkeeper pays bills from QuickBooks,
I see, yeah.
They're coded the invoice again. So what would you suggest? Like, is that?
Yeah, they would either have to manually adjust for that, or like they're doing, just don't use the COGS in Firefly.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Any others about the journal entries?
No, I think
okay. I know the journal, it's a lot, but they're really helpful once you understand the flow. So I hope that helped clarify anything that anyone had, especially if you're doing your taxes soon. Like, it just makes it so easy to see the breakdown of everything. Just as a reminder, you can always print, you can do PDF, CSV, or Excel for any of these reports. And I know a lot of people like to put, especially the journal entry summary, into Excel so they can work with the data. If you do use QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online, we do have the option to transfer your batches to those programs as well. I know there's other programs like Keystone and Sage and Yardi, which I believe use CSV files. So you could try to download the CSV. I just don't know how it's going to import. So we haven't specifically coded for that. So worth a shot if you want to try it. But if you're using QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online, you're going to come over to Accounting and Transfer Batches. And you can do a lot of batches at once. So let's say you only want to do this once a month. That is totally fine. You just check mark all the batches that you want to put into one file. So let's say I want to do everything here that I've posted since January 27th all the way up till today's. Just make sure they're check marked and it'll combine it into one file for you. Over here on the right, you have your format. So we have QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online CSV. Desktop, you do have to make sure that you are using the same account numbers or it will not import. It'll download as an IIF file. If you're doing QuickBooks Online, I believe it uses account name, but it has you map it when you try to import it. I think online is what most people are using nowadays because I think QuickBooks has kind of pushed everyone in that direction. So let's look at the QuickBooks Online CSV. So you select it, you hit generate, and it will download a file to wherever you save your downloads from the internet, probably your downloads folder on your computer. You can 100% open the file and take a look at it. It's just a CSV file that's formatted for QuickBooks. So if you wanted to take out some data, maybe you did it and you're like, oh, I don't want, for whatever reason, I don't want 2025 in here. It was all lumped together, but I don't really want that. You can delete it from this file and then import it after. There's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure that you don't take out one from the same date, because that will make it not balance and it won't import if it doesn't balance. But that's what it looks like. There's nothing fancy that you have to do to this. You don't even have to open it normally if you're comfortable with it. So just be aware. And it will be pretty much the exact same data that you will see on the journal entry summary report. So that's what that one does. Oh, wrong. Oh, you guys can't see that one, could you? You couldn't see the file. Probably not. I forgot that you couldn't see my whole screen, just the tab. But you will be able to open in QuickBooks and take in Excel, and take a look at it that way. If you've downloaded it and for some reason you lost the file because life happens, you can always go to options and you can regenerate it here. If you've chosen the wrong one, maybe I chose QuickBooks Online and I meant to choose QuickBooks Desktop, you can delete it. You can check mark your choices again. Oops, there we go. And you can choose QuickBooks Desktop here and generate it again. So if you have to redo it, no harm, no foul. Generating the transfer batches has nothing to do with your end of day. So if you delete something from your transfer batch, it will not affect any of your posted batches. So don't worry about it. Back to reports, my favorite. We talked in great deal about the journal entry summary. If you have to narrow down something, or if you're looking at the summary and you're thinking, my goodness, where did that number come from? Like, what's in there? You can always look in the journal entries. The journal entries is the detail of the journal summary. I would generally recommend not running everything because it's going to be very, very long. But let's say your RV monthly looked really, really high or really, really low, and you're thinking, why is that number like that? Well, if you run just the RV monthly for that time frame, it'll tell you everything that went in or out of it, so you can pinpoint issues if there are any, or just see how things were recognized. The other really cool thing that you can do is you can click on the transaction to go to it. It's all threaded. But when you're in the charges tab, let's say we're like, what happened with this? Where did this money go? How did the system figure that out? If you go to the options button on the payment, this is for cash and hybrid, you can do view accounting info, and it will tell you the breakdown of how it recognized that revenue. So you can see that $800 went into RV income and $104 went into my sales tax. So you can do that for any transaction. If you are using accrual accounting, you will have to go to the circle and 3 dots here and do view accounting info, because your revenue is not based on payment. So the accrual options will be in there. But this just can be really handy to pinpoint stuff and to see what's going on. The rest of the reports up here are all for accrual or hybrid. So if you're using cash basis, you don't need these. I think I had one open. Oh, I might have closed it. I had too many tabs open. Okay, that's okay. We do have, this is the deferred revenue. So here under reports, we have our deferred revenue balance. So if you're on accrual, this is what's everything that's sitting waiting to be earned. And if you scroll over here, let me just go over, you can see how much has been accrued and how much is still unearned. So if they're part way through their stay, you'll have those totals. The total here should match your journal entry summary as well, but you have to make sure that you run it from what I like to call the beginning of time. So start it from like January 1st, 2021 up until your cutoff date, have the same cutoff date here, and those numbers should match. The same is true with your accounts receivable. So you have your accounts receivable balance here and your summary, which will include POS here. So it's going to work the exact same way. If you're on hybrid, this is our newest report, which I was so excited to get in here. We now have a deposit balance summary. So this is going to show you everybody who has paid towards a future stay and the money hasn't been realized yet. So you can see that's the example here. And that should generally match your deposits account. Same thing, you have to run it from quote unquote the beginning of time. But please be aware that the reservation credits will also be part of that number. So again, under reports, we have these ones for accrual and hybrid. These two are for everybody. And if you scroll down a bit, your reservation credits, that will be everybody who has a credit on account. So you're kind of just holding that money for them. I know some parks have decided they are only holding credits to like the end of the year or something now. So if that's something that you want to do, you can go through this report and you can absorb it into like a credit forfeit if that's something you're interested in doing. But just be aware that that is going to make up part of that deposits number. I think that is all the accounting-based reports. The rest of the reports that you'll see down here, like charges and payments and reservations, there's lots of great information in them. But for the accounting module, these are the 6 that really come into play. Again, the payments report should match out against your payments. You can look at the revenue summary if that's something that you want just to kind of see from time to time. This is cash basis though. So regardless of what accounting method you have chosen, this report will always only be in cash basis accounting. So please just be aware of that. But it should be very similar to your report if you're using cash basis. And in terms of taxes collected, if possible, I always recommend using the journal entry summary over the taxes collected report. And the reason for this is this taxes collected report only shows taxes collected once the charge is paid in full. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you're always collecting money in full, it'll be great. But if you're doing partial payments, like say somebody pays today and they're not coming until June, if you want to remit the tax on that partial payment, this report won't do that. The journal entry summary will. So again, just be aware of that. The other thing that people are often concerned about would be refunds. So again, this is for cash basis, but if somebody pays today, they're coming in June, but they decide to cancel in March and you've remitted your taxes for February, March, it will back it out. So you're not going to overpay on your tax, so you don't have to worry about that. So the system will always adjust based on what's happening with the customer. So don't worry about having to manually make any of those adjustments. The last thing just to mention is here under accounting and posting batches. If you do need to make a manual adjustment, and I would say only do it if you know for sure you want to do this, down here you can make an adjustment into a financial account. Honestly, the only reason probably that you would be using this one would be if you had, daily revenue going into monthly or vice versa, and you wanted to swap it around, you could do that here. So that's what it's for, but I would say just use with extreme caution and be aware that the adjustment date will reflect on your journal entry summary report date as well. All right, so I think I've covered most of it. Do we have questions?
We do have a few questions.
Okay.
First, I'll start off with this one since this might help everybody else. Can you explain like hybrid accrual and cash, like the difference between the 3?
For sure. So cash accounting is what most people are using. And cash accounting means that you are recognizing revenue when the payment is made. So if somebody pays you today, doesn't matter when they're staying. If they give you $50 today, that is counted as revenue today, that $50. Hybrid is revenue is recognized based on payment and arrival date. So if somebody pays me $50 today for a reservation on June 1st, that $50 is going to sit in a deposits liability account and won't be recognized as revenue until June 1st when they come in. Accrual, I feel like accrual is the monster. Sorry if anyone here loves it. Accrual takes the reservation and it prorates it for every day. So if someone is staying for 5 days, accrual is going to recognize a piece of their stay every day for 5 days, and it has nothing to do with payments. So whether they pay or not, the revenue is recognized, and then it's offset against your accounts receivable. So the accounts receivable is who owes you money, and then that sits in, you have to make sure that you're collecting all of the money so that your accounts receivable is, probably will never be 0, but you'll have to check that balance to make sure that you don't have past due things on there because the revenue is recognized regardless. So that's the difference between the 3. Like I said, most parks use cash. It's, I don't want to say the simplest, but it's like the most straightforward. A lot of people like the hybrid because you're not remitting taxes until the stay actually happens, which fair. And then accrual, a lot of long-term parks like that because you're earning revenue little by little and you're not paying for big chunks of tax at once, especially seasonal parks. But accrual is harder, I think, for a lot of people to wrap their mind around. So unless you are really comfortable with it, I don't recommend using it. A lot of like corporations and like investment companies use accrual.
All right, thank you. And then you probably already covered this, so I'm sorry. What report would you use to see projected income based on future reservations in place using cash basis, or would that already be recognized then?
I would just use the reservations report, to be honest with you, because like if you're not taking full payment, you're still expecting them to pay you. So there's actually there's two different charges, two different reports I would recommend. Under reports here, we have unpaid charges. So unpaid charges just tells you all money that you're owed. So if you're on cash basis, this is the money that you're still expecting to collect, whether like if the people haven't come in yet or they're past due, either way, they'll be on this list. So that's a good projection of what's still owed to you. The other one you could use is again under reports. We could use the arrivals list or we could use the reservations. I would probably use reservations because that's my personal go-to for everything, it seems. But you could choose your date range. Let's say, okay, we want to say here until the end of the year. We want to see people arriving during this time frame. So this will give you an idea of how many people are coming in and how much they still owe you. My test park is sad, so I apologize that I don't have anything to really show here, but you get the gist, I hope.
Okay. And then, Alora, after the batch transaction, they see the transactions from the past month. Why does the system allow payments for past months if the transactions for those dates have already been posted?
We might have to look at your specific setup. So if you contact success or support, we can take a look at that. It might just be something that didn't get its flag switched properly, and we can help you fix that.
Okay, great. Thanks. Sorry. Looking back through these. Laura, same Laura, has different errors in her end of day.
Okay.
No applicable reservation fee rule found for reservation fee charge.
Sorry, that's what I'm actually meant to show as well. It's actually the same thing as the other charge. So what that means is it's one of two things. One, here under settings, property, and fees, I'm assuming, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you don't actually charge the $350 onto the customer, which is totally fine. You don't have to, but this is what it's looking for. So if you don't have this, then the error is actually pointing out to the fact that somebody has classified probably reservation unit revenue as reservation fee. I've seen lots of parks do it. It's no criticism. But here, when you look at the type, I'm just going to hit the circle and the edit on here. And you can see it in a small gray text here too, where it says, what is this charge for? Reservation unit is site revenue. Reservation fee is the $350, $5, whatever you charge, booking fee. And people get those confused a lot. So if you're not actually using the $350 booking fee, we never want to classify anything as this. So you probably just have to go to the charge and change it to reservation unit instead, and that'll fix your error.
And then how about error debits do not match credit?
That's generally a tax, like something has been unchecked improperly on the tax. That's an easier one to pinpoint if we can actually see it. So if you reach out to us, we can help you pinpoint that one.
Okay. And they don't have the option to change the end of day batch mode. Is that?
Oh, again, we probably would have to look at it. If you might not have those settings either. So you have to make sure you have the permissions to do it. If you're on hybrid or accrual, you don't have the option. You have two-step or that's it. But if you are on cash and you can't change this, we might have to do it on our end, but we're happy to help you with that too.
Okay. And that's Laura. So maybe we might need a meeting with Laura to make sure everything is good.
Yeah. Yeah. And we can help you with all that. That's no problem.
Okay. I do have a couple more. Sorry.
It's hard because sometimes it's like, oh, I have to see what happened,
Is there another way other than going hybrid to reconcile cash at the end of day as a check and balance?
You can you don't have to be hybrid. You can totally just be like cash basis and reconcile that, but you could just use the payments report. You don't have to use the reconciliation if you don't want to, because if we do here reports and payments, this should be a reflection of every single payment you collected that day, and that should help you reconcile against what's in your cash drawer, what checks you've collected, your processor, whatever it is. Just again, please make sure you put the status on paid. That's where people run into errors the most.
Okay, great. Let's see. Can you show the steps again for the transfer batch for Sage 50?
We don't have a code. We don't have anything coded for Sage 50. So you could try the CSV, which would be the QuickBooks Online, but I don't know if it'll work. You'd have to try it, to be honest with you. I don't know what their formatting is. It is, though, accounting, transfer batches. You select what you want to transfer, and you select your format. So right now we only have QuickBooks formats, but try the QuickBooks, try the CSV, because I know that Sage does use a CSV. I just don't know what the format of it is. You might just have to tweak some of the columns, but I mean, that might be easier than doing it by hand, so.
Okay. And then Charlotte is setting up a camp store. What categories of products would you recommend
Yeah.
for sale?
So I would say don't go too crazy, because sometimes the more categories you have, the harder it is. And there's kind of two different settings. So one is going to be the actual categories of how you want to categorize your items. And the second is going to be how accounting-wise you want to categorize your items. So your POS item categories can be more robust than your accounting categories, because maybe we don't care if grocery and candy and snacks go into different accounts. And you can see here, I actually have all of my candy and snacks going into groceries, but I also have my groceries going into groceries. One thing I do recommend for POS items is that you do make sure you can split the taxable and non-taxable items, so that when you are remitting taxes and reports, you can get those numbers accordingly. So the biggest bucket would be taxable store, non-taxable store at the very basic level. And then if you want to go more into it, you can. With the account codes, it's kind of how you want to see it on your reports. So like if you wanted to do taxable store, non-taxable store, wooden ice or something, you could do that kind of thing. So I hope that gives enough. Oh, Jen, I can't hear you on mute.
Sorry about that.
That's
okay. So when items are purchased using Firefly, there's different ways of giving receipts. What
yeah, so if they're doing it through the POS here, POS register, we'll do some marshmallows. It's a pretty hot camping item, right? There we go. Okay. Let's say you take payment, they do a cash payment. Let's say they pay you $5. Excellent. Okay. If you want, you can print a receipt. This will, by default, print to whatever your default printer is. So if you only have like a big printer, that's fine. It will print on a big piece of paper. You can get a smaller receipt printer, like a Star that's hooked up to a cash drawer, if that's something you want. You also have the option here to do other options and email payment receipt. So you can email it to them, even if it's Joe Blow off the street. You just type the email address in, so you can do it that way. If they're a guest in the park, you can also do I had to put it on before I did it. Before you actually take payment, you can assign it to the customer, and then it'll also be on their invoices and bills in the guest portal. So whichever way you think would work best, you can do any one of those.
Great, thank you. Katie, all payments are scheduled to collect day of arrival, and so they do not show up on the reservation report or unpaid charges. Is there a report that will show the scheduled charges you expect? Or maybe or there's something else on the reservation report?
Yeah, no, this is perfect, actually. If you go to reports and you scroll down to payments, I probably don't have any in here just because I don't think I have my park set up that way. But let's say we do from now until the end of the year as another example. And the payment status you can actually do as scheduled. So you'll know how many, I don't have any set up, but you would know how many are scheduled for the future. Just put future dates in and just make sure the status is scheduled.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then we have a request from Brian to fix the first column.
Yeah, it has been fixed. I don't know if the release is out yet, but the programmer made it smaller.
Awesome. I think I have all the questions. If I've missed anybody, please throw it in the chat. I know we're just about up in time. You can also email success or support to get other questions answered. We'd love to answer all your questions.
Yeah. And just to get to, just in case anybody missed it, if you jumped in a bit late, like Jen said, we are always happy here to help you, to support you. Like that's literally what we're here for. But if you do go to the knowledge base down here, there is a whole accounting section as well, including those common errors. So if you're like, oh, that was fast, or I don't remember what she said, there is like the accounting errors in here too. So
awesome.
Some of them, like the debit credit error, is just easier to contact support, so we can help you pinpoint that, because there's a few reasons why that can come up. So yeah, just be aware of that one.
Awesome. Oh. And then we do have something else coming in. I'm just going to launch a poll real quick while we get those last questions in. So we're just curious, what type of accounting do you use? Cash, accrual, or hybrid?
Sorry, I see this question too. On the site balance report, what is the balance we should see in our accounting software as the site deposit balance? I'm not sure what you mean by site balance.
Hickory, do you mind explaining that a little bit more, going into more detail?
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, deposits for future reservations. So if you're on hybrid, there is the deposits summary report, that should match your deposits in the accounting software. So it's let me see if I can, this guy here. So reports. Oh, I might
actually, let me take this.
Yeah, if you don't mind, sorry. Sorry. Reports, and
Oops.
then.
Okay.
Oh, I'm not showing my screen. Oh, it's not on the stage. Okay, got it.
There we go.
Sorry, we're still good. This is still relatively like fresh. Wistia. Right there, the site balance summary report, this one here. That should match your future deposits in your accounting software, in Firefly, in both, to be honest, because hopefully they all match. If you do want to do it off the journal entry summary, that's again where you have to run that from the beginning of time. This deposit balance summary has a cutoff date. So this one's probably actually easier to use than the journal entry summary to reconcile or to balance those two.
Let's see.
Which column? In this one, so you have like the total overall balance, total reservation balance. So overall just means if there's POS. So this is the one you want to use, this column here. So the reservations would just be like site reservations. And then if you had any outstanding POS for future that hasn't been recognized, that would be there. And then this one here. And it will tell you too if there are credit adjustments in it. So you'll know if it's a reservation, a POS, or a credit adjustment. That's why that report's good, because it gives you everything.
Okay, great. I think we are good.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. This will be on our YouTube channel, and we will email the recording out to you. And thanks again.
Yeah, thanks so much. And yeah, let us know if you have any questions.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.